Last Thursday afternoon, my daughter-in-law Jennifer told me that I was too old and confused to be around my grandchildren anymore, and that she was implementing a permanent ban on my visits, because she believed my advanced age of 71 made me a safety risk and an inappropriate influence on her 8-year-old daughter Emma and 6-year-old son Tyler, who needed stability and modern guidance, rather than outdated ideas from a senile old man. What Jennifer didn't know as she delivered her insulting ultimatum about my supposedly deteriorating mental capacity and my unworthiness to spend time with my beloved grandchildren was that I had secretly purchased their house 6 months earlier when they were facing foreclosure, and I was the anonymous benefactor who had been paying their mortgage, utilities, and property taxes while allowing them to believe they had received an unexpected loan modification from their bank. I'm Robert Mitchell. I'm 71 years old, and this is the story of how my arrogant daughter-in-law's age discrimination and cruel restrictions on my grandparent rights led to the most shocking real estate revelation that changed our family dynamics forever and taught her that underestimating elderly family members can have devastating financial consequences. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The foundation of this family conflict begins 3 years ago when my son Daniel married Jennifer, a 34-year-old marketing professional who had 2 children from her previous marriage, and who immediately established herself as the dominant authority figure in their blended household, with clear expectations that family relationships and decisions would be structured according to her preferences and her modern parenting philosophies, rather than traditional family values and grandparent involvement. Jennifer's approach to family management included strict boundaries about grandparent visits, detailed scheduling requirements for any interaction with her children, and explicit instructions about appropriate topics of conversation and activities that were considered suitable for my interactions with Emma and Tyler, who had initially welcomed me as their new step-grandfather with enthusiasm and affection. Daniel's relationship with Jennifer appeared to be loving and supportive, though I noticed early signs that he was deferring to her judgment about family matters and gradually reducing his own decision-making authority in favor of maintaining harmony in their marriage and avoiding conflicts that might disrupt their household stability and the children's adjustment to their blended family situation. During the first year of Daniel and Jennifer's marriage, my visits with Emma and Tyler were pleasant and frequent, with regular weekend activities, holiday celebrations, and school events that allowed me to develop close relationships with my step-grandchildren and contribute to their emotional support and educational enrichment through storytelling, games, and shared interests in sports and outdoor activities. Jennifer's initial tolerance for my involvement gradually shifted toward increasing criticism and control, with complaints about my parenting suggestions being outdated, my gift choices being inappropriate for modern children, and my influence potentially conflicting with her established routines and behavioral expectations for Emma and Tyler's development and discipline. The first serious conflict occurred 18 months ago when I disagreed with Jennifer's decision to prohibit Emma from participating in her school's grandfather-granddaughter dance, because Jennifer believed such events promoted outdated gender roles and family structures that didn't reflect modern values and progressive parenting approaches that she preferred for her children's social and cultural education. My suggestion that Emma should be allowed to make her own choice about participating in the dance with me as her step-grandfather was met with Jennifer's angry accusation that I was undermining her parental authority and attempting to impose traditional family expectations that conflicted with her efforts to raise independent, critically thinking children who weren't constrained by conventional social expectations. Daniel's response to this conflict was disappointing and revealed his unwillingness to advocate for my relationship with the children, or to challenge Jennifer's increasingly restrictive policies about grandparent involvement, instead suggesting that I should respect Jennifer's parenting decisions and adapt my expectations to accommodate her preferences for the children's activities and social experiences. The grandfather-granddaughter dance controversy established a pattern of Jennifer using her parental authority to limit my access to Emma and Tyler whenever my presence or suggestions conflicted with her vision of appropriate modern parenting. With Daniel's consistent support for her position, despite the obvious disappointment and confusion it caused for the children who enjoyed our relationship. Jennifer's restrictions on my grandparent involvement expanded over the following months to include limitations on gift giving, restrictions on taking the children for individual activities without her direct supervision, and requirements that all conversations with Emma and Tyler be monitored to ensure that I wasn't sharing stories or perspectives that might contradict her preferred messages about family values, social issues, and behavioral expectations. The children's reactions to these increasing restrictions were clearly negative, with Emma and Tyler expressing confusion about why their visits with Grandpa Robert were becoming less frequent and more supervised, and their obvious disappointment when planned activities were canceled or modified due to Jennifer's concerns about my influence on their development and thinking. My attempts to discuss these restrictions with Jennifer directly were met with increasingly hostile responses and accusations that my age was affecting my judgment and my ability to understand modern parenting approaches, with suggestions that my traditional views and outdated attitudes made me an inappropriate role model for children who needed progressive guidance and contemporary perspectives. The most hurtful aspect of Jennifer's criticism was her repeated references to my age as a disqualifying factor for meaningful grandparent relationships, with claims that 71 years old was too advanced for active involvement with young children, and that my generation's values and experiences were irrelevant or potentially harmful to Emma and Tyler's proper development and preparation for modern life. Daniel's failure to defend me against Jennifer's age-based discrimination was particularly disappointing and revealed that his loyalty to his new wife had completely superseded his respect for his father and his appreciation for the positive relationship I had developed with his stepchildren during the early period of their marriage when Jennifer had been more welcoming of my involvement. The financial crisis that would ultimately change our family dynamics began 8 months ago when Daniel confided to me that he and Jennifer were struggling with their mortgage payments due to Jennifer's reduction in work hours, following a company restructuring and unexpected medical expenses related to Tyler's treatment for a broken arm that had required surgery and extended physical therapy. Daniel's explanation of their financial difficulties included details about their mounting credit card debt, their inability to refinance their mortgage due to credit issues, and their growing concern about potential foreclosure if they couldn't find a solution to their payment problems within the next few months before their lender initiated formal foreclosure proceedings. My immediate response to Daniel's financial crisis was an offer to provide a personal loan or gift that would help them maintain their mortgage payments and avoid foreclosure. But Jennifer's pride and her desire to maintain independence from family financial assistance led to her rejection of my offer and her insistence that they would solve their problems without help from relatives. Jennifer's refusal to accept financial assistance from me was accompanied by accusations that my offer was an attempt to gain leverage over their family decisions and to force them to accept my involvement in their lives and my relationship with her children, revealing her suspicion that financial support would come with expectations about grandparent access and family dynamics. Despite Jennifer's rejection of direct financial assistance, I decided to secretly intervene in their foreclosure crisis by working with my attorney and financial advisor to purchase their house through a shell company and real estate investment trust that would allow me to become their anonymous benefactor without revealing my identity or creating obvious family obligations that Jennifer would resent. The secret house purchase required careful legal and financial planning to ensure that the transaction would appear to be a legitimate business investment by an unknown real estate company rather than family assistance, with documentation and procedures that would protect my anonymity while providing Daniel and Jennifer with the mortgage relief they desperately needed to avoid foreclosure. My attorney's guidance included recommendations for structuring the purchase through multiple legal entities and investment vehicles that would create sufficient separation between my personal identity and the property ownership to ensure that Jennifer would never discover that her father-in-law had become her landlord and mortgage benefactor through his intervention in their financial crisis. The house purchase transaction was completed 6 months ago, with Jennifer and Daniel receiving notification that their mortgage had been purchased by an investment company that was offering them a modified payment plan with reduced monthly obligations and improved terms that would allow them to maintain their home ownership while addressing their financial difficulties through more manageable payment requirements. Jennifer's reaction to the unexpected mortgage modification was relief and gratitude toward the anonymous investment company that had provided their financial salvation, along with satisfaction that they had resolved their crisis without accepting family assistance that might have created unwanted obligations or interference in their household management and parenting decisions. Daniel's response to the mortgage relief included expressions of gratitude and amazement at their good fortune, though I could see that he suspected the timing and terms of the mortgage modification were unusually favorable and might involve some form of family intervention that Jennifer wasn't aware of or wouldn't acknowledge. The secret nature of my house purchase meant that I was now responsible for their property taxes, homeowners insurance, and major maintenance expenses, while allowing Jennifer and Daniel to believe that their modified mortgage payments were being made to an impersonal investment company rather than to me as their benefactor and actual property owner. Jennifer's attitude toward me didn't improve despite their improved financial situation, and she continued to implement increasingly restrictive policies about my access to Emma and Tyler, with additional complaints about my age and my supposed mental decline, affecting my suitability as a grandparent figure in their lives and their children's development. The escalating restrictions on my grandparent relationship included Jennifer's new policy requiring 48 hours advance notice for any visit requests, limitations on visit duration to no more than 2 hours, and requirements that all activities be pre-approved and supervised to ensure that I wasn't exposing Emma and Tyler to inappropriate influences or outdated perspectives that might conflict with their modern upbringing. Emma and Tyler's growing confusion and disappointment about the reduced frequency and increased restrictions on our time together was heartbreaking and clearly demonstrated that Jennifer's policies were harming their emotional well-being and their sense of family connection, despite her claims that she was protecting them from negative influences and inappropriate guidance. My attempts to maintain meaningful relationships with my step-grandchildren within Jennifer's restrictive framework became increasingly difficult and frustrating, with every interaction being monitored and evaluated according to her standards for appropriate modern grandparent behavior that seemed designed to minimize my influence and gradually eliminate my presence from their lives. The final confrontation that led to Jennifer's complete ban on my grandparent access occurred 3 weeks ago during Emma's 8th birthday party, when I gave her a children's book about family history and traditions that Jennifer deemed inappropriate because it promoted conventional family structures and traditional values that conflicted with her progressive parenting philosophy and her efforts to raise socially conscious children. Jennifer's reaction to my birthday gift was immediate and angry, with accusations that I was deliberately undermining her parenting approach and attempting to indoctrinate Emma with outdated ideas about family relationships and social expectations that she had specifically tried to counter through her modern educational approach and value system. The public nature of Jennifer's criticism during Emma's birthday party was embarrassing and hurtful, particularly because it occurred in front of other family members and friends who witnessed her disrespectful treatment of me and her accusations about my negative influence on her children's development and thinking processes. Daniel's response to the birthday party confrontation was his usual pattern of supporting Jennifer's position while avoiding direct conflict, with suggestions that I should have consulted with Jennifer before selecting Emma's gift, and that I needed to be more sensitive to their parenting preferences and family values when choosing presents or planning activities with the children. The aftermath of the birthday party incident included Jennifer's announcement that she was implementing a complete ban on my visits with Emma and Tyler because my repeated violations of their family boundaries and my refusal to accept their modern parenting approach demonstrated that I was unable to respect their authority and their right to control their children's influences and educational experiences. Jennifer's official statement about the visitation ban included detailed accusations about my mental decline affecting my judgment, my age-related confusion about appropriate behavior with children, and my inability to adapt to contemporary family dynamics and parenting philosophies that prioritized progressive values over traditional grandparent relationships and conventional family structures. The cruelest aspect of Jennifer's visitation ban was her claim that my advanced age of 71 made me inherently unsuitable for meaningful relationships with young children, with suggestions that elderly grandparents were naturally confused, potentially dangerous, and unable to provide appropriate guidance or supervision for children who needed modern perspectives and contemporary role models. Daniel's failure to challenge Jennifer's age-based discrimination and her complete elimination of my grandparent rights was the final betrayal that convinced me to reveal my secret ownership of their house and demonstrate that my supposedly declining mental capacity had actually enabled me to solve their financial crisis and save their home from foreclosure. The decision to reveal my house ownership required careful planning to ensure maximum impact and to demonstrate clearly that Jennifer's assumptions about my mental capacity and financial irrelevance were completely wrong, while also establishing new terms for our family relationship that would reflect my actual position as their benefactor and property owner. My attorney's guidance for the revelation process included recommendations for documenting Jennifer's discriminatory statements and her visitation ban as evidence of elder abuse and family conflict that might require legal intervention to protect my grandparent rights and ensure appropriate access to Emma and Tyler despite Jennifer's attempts to eliminate my family relationships. The revelation was planned for last Thursday afternoon, when Jennifer would be alone at the house during her usual work-from-home period, providing an opportunity for private conversation that would allow her to process the shocking information about my house ownership without witnesses or distractions that might reduce the impact of her discovery. I arrived at Jennifer's house unannounced last Thursday afternoon, carrying copies of the property deed, mortgage documents, and payment records that would provide irrefutable proof of my ownership and my financial support for their family over the past 6 months, since their foreclosure crisis had threatened their home security and stability. Jennifer's initial reaction to my unexpected visit was irritation and a reminder that I was violating her new policy requiring advance notice for any contact, followed by her repetition of the visitation ban and her insistence that I leave immediately without any interaction with Emma and Tyler, who were at school. My response to Jennifer's dismissive attitude was the presentation of the property deed showing my ownership of her house, along with mortgage payment records demonstrating that I had been secretly paying their housing costs for 6 months, while she had been implementing increasingly restrictive policies about my grandparent access and making insulting comments about my mental capacity. Jennifer's reaction to the property documents was initial disbelief and confusion, followed by growing shock and embarrassment as she realized that her elderly father-in-law, whom she had characterized as too old and confused for meaningful family relationships, had actually been her anonymous benefactor and was now revealed as her landlord and mortgage holder. The documentation I presented included detailed records of property taxes, insurance payments, and maintenance expenses that I had been covering while allowing Jennifer and Daniel to believe that their mortgage modification was the result of corporate generosity rather than family intervention, demonstrating the extent of my financial support and my actual role in their housing security. Jennifer's emotional response to the revelation included anger about my deception and secrecy, followed by embarrassment about her treatment of me during the period when I had been secretly supporting their family, and growing awareness that her position of authority and independence was actually dependent on my continued financial generosity and property ownership. My explanation of the house purchase included details about my motivation to help Daniel's family avoid foreclosure, while respecting Jennifer's stated desire for independence from family financial assistance, along with my decision to maintain anonymity to avoid creating obvious obligations or interference with their household management and parenting decisions. The revelation conversation also included my expression of disappointment about Jennifer's age-based discrimination and her cruel restrictions on my grandparent relationships, particularly given that my supposedly declining mental capacity had actually enabled me to solve their financial crisis and demonstrate greater practical problem-solving ability than either Jennifer or Daniel had shown. Jennifer's attempts to rationalize her behavior and maintain her authority were undermined by the obvious contradiction between her claims about my mental incompetence and the evidence of my sophisticated financial planning and successful intervention in their foreclosure crisis, revealing that her age discrimination had been based on prejudice rather than legitimate concerns about my capabilities. My presentation of the new terms for our family relationship included my expectation of reasonable grandparent access to Emma and Tyler, respect for my role as their benefactor and property owner, an acknowledgement that my age and experience represented valuable resources rather than liabilities in our family dynamics and the children's development and education. Jennifer's response to my demands for changed family dynamics included desperate attempts to negotiate and compromise, with offers of limited visitation schedules and supervised activities that would allow me some access to the children, while maintaining her primary authority over parenting decisions and household management that she was unwilling to surrender completely. My rejection of Jennifer's compromise offers was based on my determination that her previous treatment of me had been unacceptable, and that any future relationship would need to reflect genuine respect for my contributions to their family and acknowledgement of my value as a grandparent figure, rather than tolerance of my presence as an inconvenient family obligation. The immediate consequences of my house ownership revelation included Jennifer's recognition that her family's housing security was dependent on my continued goodwill and financial support, creating a fundamental shift in power dynamics that required her to reconsider her approach to family relationships and her treatment of elderly relatives who might have greater resources and capabilities than she had assumed. Daniel's reaction to Jennifer's phone call about my house ownership was shock and embarrassment about his wife's treatment of me during the period when I had been secretly supporting their family, along with his realization that his failure to defend me against Jennifer's age discrimination had been particularly inappropriate given my actual role as their benefactor and financial supporter. The long-term implications of the house ownership revelation extended beyond immediate changes in visitation policies to fundamental questions about family relationships, respect for elderly relatives, and the assumptions that younger family members make about the capabilities and resources of their older relatives, who may have more to offer than superficial assessments might suggest. Jennifer's efforts to rebuild our relationship following the revelation have included apologies for her age-based discrimination and acknowledgement that her assumptions about my mental capacity and financial relevance were wrong, though her sincerity has been undermined by the obvious influence of her newfound awareness of her dependence on my property ownership and financial support. The new visitation arrangements that emerged from our negotiations include regular weekend activities with Emma and Tyler, holiday celebrations that acknowledge my role as their step-grandfather, and school events that allow me to participate in their educational and social development, without the restrictive supervision and approval requirements that Jennifer had previously imposed. Emma and Tyler's reactions to the restoration of our grandparent relationship have been enthusiastic and grateful, with clear evidence that they had missed our time together, and that Jennifer's restrictions had been harmful to their emotional well-being, and their sense of family connection and stability throughout the period when their interactions with me had been limited or eliminated. The broader family response to the house ownership revelation and the resolution of our visitation conflict has been generally supportive of my position, with recognition that Jennifer's age discrimination had been inappropriate, and that my financial intervention in their foreclosure crisis demonstrated practical capabilities that contradicted her claims about my mental decline and incompetence. My continued ownership of Daniel and Jennifer's house provides ongoing leverage for maintaining appropriate family relationships and ensuring that my grandparent rights are respected, while also serving as a reminder that elderly family members may have greater resources and capabilities than younger relatives assume based on age-related stereotypes and prejudices. The monthly mortgage payments that I receive from Daniel and Jennifer through their belief that they are paying an investment company serve as regular confirmation of my role as their benefactor, while maintaining the legal structure that protects my property ownership and ensures my continued influence over their housing security and family stability. Jennifer's attitude toward aging and elderly family members has been significantly influenced by her discovery of my financial resources and practical capabilities, leading to greater respect for older relatives and recognition that age-based discrimination can have serious consequences when assumptions about mental capacity and social relevance prove to be completely wrong. The educational value of this experience for Emma and Tyler includes important lessons about respecting elderly family members, recognizing that age represents experience and wisdom rather than decline and irrelevance, and understanding that family relationships should be based on love and respect rather than assumptions about capabilities and contributions. Today, 8 months after the house ownership revelation, my relationship with Emma and Tyler has been fully restored with regular visits, meaningful activities, and emotional connections that demonstrate the importance of grandparent relationships in children's development and the harmful effects of artificial restrictions based on age discrimination and parental control issues. Jennifer's ongoing dependence on my property ownership and financial support has created permanent changes in our family dynamics, with increased respect for my role as a family elder and recognition that my experience and resources represent valuable assets rather than burdens or sources of inappropriate influence that need to be managed or eliminated. Daniel's appreciation for my financial intervention in their foreclosure crisis has strengthened our father-son relationship and increased his willingness to advocate for my grandparent rights when conflicts arise, though he continues to balance his loyalty to me with his commitment to maintaining harmony in his marriage and supporting Jennifer's parenting authority in areas that don't conflict with my legitimate family interests. The secret nature of my house purchase continues to provide protection for family relationships by allowing Daniel and Jennifer to maintain their sense of independence and accomplishment, while ensuring that my financial support continues without obvious family obligations that might create resentment or conflict about dependency and autonomy in their household management and financial planning. My experience with Jennifer's age discrimination and its resolution through the revelation of my actual financial capabilities has reinforced my commitment to challenging stereotypes about elderly people and demonstrating that age represents accumulated wisdom, resources, and practical capabilities, rather than decline, confusion, and social irrelevance that justify discriminatory treatment and exclusion from meaningful family relationships. The ongoing legal structure of my property ownership provides permanent security for my grandparent rights, while maintaining appropriate boundaries about household management and parenting decisions that remain Jennifer's responsibility, creating a balanced family dynamic that respects both my role as a benefactor and elder and her authority as a parent and household manager. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.